Nick Peterson here, and today I'm going to talk about mastery a little bit deeper, okay? Because until you can master yourself, explore yourself, and control yourself, you have no business trying to control anything else. And that is the ultimate final form of mastery, is being able to change the rules around you, change the way the game is played, right? You don't like the game, you become a master and you change the game, right? And there's a series of steps to get there. We've talked about that in multiple different ways. Let me talk about the 5 primary keys to mastering yourself. Because all great masters master their emotions, master themselves, and they do these things that allow them to function at a high level and avoid some of the hang-ups. So we'll just delve into the 5 keys to mastering self-discipline. Okay, this is being disciplined in the way you think, the way you act, the way you react, the way you take responsibility, and the control of yourself. Okay? First one, it is a concept that there is no real word for it, so we call it self-awareify. Okay? And what we mean by that is your initial exposure to things often kind of puts the taste in your mouth for the rest of your life. And this happens with sexism, racism, food. I'll tell you a story about mushrooms in a minute. Not psychedelic mushrooms, just mushrooms. But you have to understand that your initial exposure to things are often at a time when you don't have the capacity. Your frontal lobe isn't matured yet. It hasn't formed appropriately. So basically, you are getting this taste in your mouth before you have the proper discernment or capacity to really make a decision about how you feel. When your mom jumps because she sees a spider, you don't have the capacity as a child to think like, oh, that's not a poisonous spider, or, spiders only account for X amount of hospital room visits. You just see mom jump, and now spiders are scary and ruin your day, right? So that the initial taste is when you're a kid, and what you have to do as an adult with a level of discernment is override, is self-awareify. So, my mushroom story, right? Dr. Kashi has a great video where he kind of breaks down how when he was a kid, he had ill-prepared mushrooms. It just ruined his whole day. He vomited. Just the worst day ever. Okay? And as he grew up, every time he saw mushrooms, my stomach hurts, ruins my day, right? Like, couldn't even eat because of that initial taste. And he decided to self-awareify himself. And I'm using food so we don't get into touchy subjects, right? So decided to self-awareify, which means, as an adult, maybe mushrooms aren't that bad. Maybe they were prepared incorrectly. Maybe they weren't prepared at all. Maybe I don't like mushrooms, but it certainly shouldn't ruin my whole day and cause this visceral reaction, right? And so through positive exposure and neutral exposure, he began to self-awareify, which means, what are my thoughts? Okay, now what are my thoughts about my thoughts? Why am I having these thoughts? Okay, they're illogical, they're irrational, mushrooms should not ruin my day, and over time, this starts happening automatically, okay? So you have to self-awareify when these feelings come in and have the ability to reflect upon them and create a different response to the trigger. Okay, you're an adult now. You can discern things, you can self-awareify, and you can eliminate these initial reactions, or you can replace them with something else. Okay, so that's self-awareifying. Look it up. The word doesn't exist. 2, take responsibility for everything. You, as a disciplined human being, you look for anything you could have done better no matter what, because if you don't take responsibility, there is nothing you can do, right? So take 100% responsibility for everything. Make that part of your discipline. Action. Part part of self-awarifying and taking responsibility to is number 3, resistance. Recognize when you're running into resistance. This is where discipline sets you ahead of everywhere else. This is where you go through the tedium. This is where you go through the storm. So one of my favorites is when a storm rolls in. One of my favorite stories, storm rolls in, all the cows try to run away from it, right? They're not disciplined in their action, and they run away from it, which just prolongs the amount of time they spend in the storm, right? People do this all the time, right? They don't face their problems head on. It just drags out the amount of time they're dealing with shit. So recognize resistance. Recognize when a storm is coming and take that as a sign to go through it. You actually get through the storm much, much quicker. So the saying is, this too shall pass. This too shall pass only when you go through it. It is not going to pass on its own, and if it does, it's going to pass very, very slow. So recognize resistance and lean into it. Go through it. These are the disciplines that make you disciplined. 4, potentially the most important one, accept reality and adopt the phrase and the mindset, and now what? What happens, happens. I'm a huge fan. You'll hear me say all the time, it is what it is. What has happened has happened. Accept reality for what it is. People are the way they are. The less time you spend moralizing or fretting or worrying about it, the more time you can spend taking care of what you need to take care of, right? And that's part of being disciplined. You do what you need to do, which means, okay, my house burnt down, now what? And figure it out. Okay, this is something that I've been historically working on and gotten really good at, is you just accept reality. Because if you are not disciplined, reality's just going to get worse. No sense in sitting around complaining about it, right? And number 5 is ask your question, who's really in control? Because you have to control your emotions, you have to self-awarify, but your discipline, and this is the big differentiation. Pause for a minute. Okay, big discrepancy in when I say discipline and a traditional use. I am not a fan of punishment. So in the traditional sense, discipline is following rules and being punished if they're not followed. I think high-performing people are hard enough on themselves. They don't have to go out of their way and punish themselves. I think it is recognizing who is really in control. Because if you're not doing things to carry you to where you want to be, you are not self-disciplined. Right? Let me explain. Discipline is following a set of rules or parameters, okay? And if somebody says to you, I don't think you can lift that rock up, and you go, oh yeah? Watch me. Right? If you're reactive like that, who's really the master? You are following their directions. They're manipulating you. Okay, so you have to figure out, if we're talking about self-discipline, doing what we said we were going to do, doing what is going to deliver us to our highest and best selves, we have to continually audit to make sure it's us that's in control. Because people are smart, and people are smart enough to learn that if I tell Nick he can't do this, he will do it. Which means they are controlling me. I may be disciplined in some sense, but it is not the kind of self-discipline that is going to keep me on the path I need to be on, right? So think about that, because it's a little bit different, but you have to understand who's in control. Because you can be disciplined and you can follow this path, and You don't want to be the disciplined runner running the race they don't want to be in. So you have to audit, is this the race I want to be in, and stay disciplined to that. Hope you guys realize you just got hit with some really powerful and pragmatic stuff. Don't you think? I do. And if you agree, hit the thumbs up button below and like the video. Let me know in the comments what other videos you want to see, what you want me to expand upon, and what questions you have. And remember, all of this stuff is only as powerful as the actions you take in your execution, the practical applications you can derive from it. So let's see how quickly and effectively and efficiently you can master the things to come. You're going to get information here that's going to help you on your journey that you will not find anywhere else. So be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss one of these videos.